Hey all, Siege here, and today it would appear we got some new narrative content in Warframe. Well, PC did at least, and of course I'm not salty about that. Not at all, in fact. Anyway, have you seen this new cinematic tied to the release of Scarlet Spear? Let's put that little thought experiment back into play from before, shall we? I want to know your thoughts on it before I give you my own. So feel free to put in the comments what your first impressions were before you get deep into the video. I really got some interesting perspectives last time, and I want to see what y'all have on this one as well. Now, if you haven't seen it, don't want to be spoiled, please click off the video now. But if you have or don't care and want to see, here it is for your viewing pleasure. Feel free to skip to the time below to get right into the discussion if you've already experienced it.
We're ready, Natal.
So quiet. So dark.
It only needs a voice. A spark.
But Mother,
Mother's gone. This is all that remains. But you have her fire. And more. You can finish what she started.
finish the war.
Bring peace. Bring purity.
On Lua, the Lotus, I attacked you.
You remember?
You died.
You don't remember everything then. Yes, your aphids wounded me, and our forces were depleting fast. I knew I had failed. Failed you, my sister. Failed our family. I had no choice but to retreat.
No. You were destroyed. The Tenno made sure of that.
You're still recovering. With all that the Makers did to you, it will take time to heal.
He is one of them, isn't he? A Maker.
Finish the war, Neta.
Okay, so anything seem weird to you? I think the more apt question would be which parts aren't weird, given the path we've already been led along. But for me at least, the first thing I noticed of any significance is that this isn't something our Tenno or operator is supposed to see. Whereas with both Chimera and the Era quest, were actually experienced by our character, which I think is why the shift in tone is kind of severe. I also have to ask, is Era's voice different? Is anybody else hearing that? I can't help but think I'm hearing a different tone, slightly higher pitched than before his quote-unquote death scene.
It only needs a voice, a spark. If I had a heart, it would be broken. If my eyes could weep, I'd be blind.
You know, I said in the previous video that something wasn't right about him being alive and well after the attack from the Tenno, and that appears to be something the Lotus picked up on as well. His answers really aren't that convincing either, and I'd say the end pretty much proves there's something not quite right about Era, at least as he is today. Also, why hasn't the Lotus changed forms yet? What is this form exactly? If she took the appearance of Margulis, why doesn't she revert back to her original sentient form? I mean, she's the Mimic Queen, so I would imagine changing forms can't be that difficult, right? Personally, I'm curious to know what she looked like as a sentient. Is it just that DE wants to make sure people recognize her character? Or does the fact that she still seems like she could crawl out of the sentient shell mean anything? Even Ballas's transformation seems more permanent, if you will. Her reaching out with her human hands at the end really made me feel that maybe this sentient body isn't hers, but rather something she's been placed in to make her more easily fall for the con. It's actually very interesting the parallel we could be seeing between this sentient body and the Lotus helmet. Maybe they both have the capability to control her? I mean, she's obviously the key to whatever the sentients and whoever is actually in charge want, and apparently her willful allegiance isn't even necessary. Heck, it's looking like everyone wants the Lotus on their side, just not of her own volition, you know? Well, except for the Tenno, that is. She seems to have something special, the fire or the voice that they keep talking about. What is that specifically? Like, what does it do? And further, what happened to her mother? I had actually assumed that character would have a large role to play in the new war, and yet Era says she's gone. How did that happen? And if true, who exactly has been creating this huge sentient army we've been looking at all this time? Let's move on to Ballas, shall we? I don't think he's pulling the strings here, but it's pretty obvious he's in league with whoever is. I think we can surmise this alliance was formulated before apostasy, as I feel at least an obvious stipulation for him to be welcome among the sentients was to bring Nata home. But I'm not convinced anymore that he actually has feelings for her. It's entirely possible that this isn't even Ballas anymore. Both Ballas and Era are obviously working together. Why? It's tough to say. Does Ballas want revenge on the Orokin for the death of Margulis so badly that he'd be willing to betray literally everyone he knew and even become a sentient himself, losing his perfection? Does Era want that same vengeance enough to work with his supposed sworn enemy? And why are they both so willing and even eager to betray Nata? Era seems to regard her as a loved one.
If I had a heart, it would be broken. If my eyes could weep, I'd be blind.
Right up until the end of the cinematic, at least. And one thing we really do have to take into consideration is both Era and Ballas should technically be dead. By the hands of the Tenno. Our Tenno, no less. The next time we see Ballas after our initial encounter, he's been transformed into some half-sentient thing, complaining about the perfect death the Lotus stole from him. Here's the thing, though. The Orokin really aren't that enamored with death. Their society is actually kind of built upon the concept of cheating death, you know? They aren't really honorable in any way that's relevant, and generally spend their entire existence attempting to live forever and enjoy the best of everything, leaving the scraps for anyone they deem lower than themselves. Why did Nata seem to imprison him after saving his life after the sacrifice? This may be the reckoning the Orokin always had coming to them, with Ballas being the representative for said revenge for being so cavalier with the solar system, but I can't help but be confused by this group and their behaviors. That is, of course, unless there's another entity pulling the strings. Ballas's right eye there. Boy, it sure looks familiar. I would assume that given the sentience as well as Ballas's understanding and connection to the Void, they would both most likely be keenly aware of our little Void friend who just always seems to infuse himself into this situation. And given the fact that this cinematic was one the Tenno were not supposed to be privy to, because the man on the wall didn't direct us to it, is something I really do find significant. To tell the truth, overall this cinematic has actually muddied the waters a bit as to who's actually pulling the strings. Maybe it is the man on the wall, but maybe the man on the wall is actually trying to help us. It's so hard to say at this point. That being said, here's my loose take on the situation as a whole. No matter what else, the Tenno are being pit against the Lotus by everybody. That, in my mind, is the quintessential point attempting to be portrayed in the recent lore. There's some very specific reason that they need to be in conflict, which makes sense as far as Era and Ballas are concerned because they are obviously not on our side, but I'm just not sure how that would benefit the man on the wall. Like, why would he be attempting to orchestrate the narrative he's trying to sell us, and potentially even Ballas and Era? I mean, are these two actually Ballas and Era, or maybe mimics of some version? And is there some way back for the Tenno and Lotus? I have to say, I do miss my Space Mom and really, 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 really hate Mecha Space Mom. But if she does try to come back, we're going to have a little talk about a great many things. But like always, what did I miss? There is just too much to go off of and too much deep lore to think that there isn't something this old boy didn't include. And that's where you come in. Every video, you're all pushing me deeper and deeper into Warframe's story. And I thank you for it, because I'm really enjoying myself. I plan on doing a deep dive on all 3 quests together, but that'll be coming in the future. So I hope you enjoyed the video today, and I hope you're looking forward to that one. At any rate, I hope you have a wonderful day today. Do your best to stay safe out there and, just keep on keeping on. Have a wonderful rest of your week, and I'll talk at you on the next one. Take care, everybody.